Hi everyone, welcome to the course Become a Business Analyst, your path to success. As discussed earlier, this course is structured around the Babok guide and for simplicity is divided into 9 comprehensive modules. We have already completed modules 1, 2 and 3 and we are currently progressing through module 4. Module 1 provides an introduction to business analysis perfect for those new to the field or from non-IT backgrounds. Module 2 focuses on the Babok knowledge area strategy analysis, where we learn how to define business needs, access organizational capabilities, and recommend effective solutions. Module 3 dives into business analysis, planning, and monitoring, which is another knowledge area of Babok guide, where we have explored how to plan BA work, identify stakeholders, choose the right elicitation techniques, and monitor the performance of BA activities. Now we are currently in module 4 where we have already explored the requirement lifecycle management, which is another knowledge area of Babok guide. So far we have covered the 5 key steps involved in RLCM and discussed the first 3 steps in detail. To make it easier to follow along, each tutorial video is numbered sequentially. If you ever need a quick refresher or clarification, you can easily revisit any previous tutorial at your convenience. All supporting documents and useful links are readily available in the video description for quick and easy access. Now, welcome to the tutorial 14 of this series. In this session, we will diving into step 4, that is access requirement changes, and step 5, approve requirements. These are the final 2 steps of requirement lifecycle management knowledge area, where we will explore why it is crucial to evaluate the impact of requirement changes before taking action and understand the significance of formal approval in ensuring alignment with stakeholder expectation and business objectives. So without further delay, let's get started with tutorial 14. So first we will see what exactly requirement changes. Requirement changes happen when the initial project requirements need to be modified, added or removed due to new business needs, regulatory updates, technical challenges or stakeholder request. So basically requirement changes come up with something in the project needs to be tweaked. Maybe we have to add something new or remove something or modify what we had earlier. Well, this usually happens because the business needs changes. There might be some new rules or regulation there may be we hit with some technical roadblock, or maybe stakeholder ask for something different. So in short, it is like just adjusting your plan to keep up with real world situation. For further detail, we will see why do requirement change. First is business needs evolve. Well, companies change their goals or strategies. So the system has to keep up with the changes. What worked before might not work now. So we just adjust the requirement. So this is one of the reason that we change the requirement. Then regulatory and compliance update. Well, new rules and regulations, something like that. Sometimes there are updates in laws or policies, like tax slabs changing, something like that. This happens regularly, and the system has to follow these new changes. So requirements need to be updated according to that. So this is another reason of the requirement get changed. Then technical feasibility and issues. In short, it is technical limitation we are talking about. Some features sound great or on paper, means if we when we gather requirement, what I am trying to tell you that some features sound great on paper, but when we try to build them, then turn out to be very complex and very expensive, or sometimes it's just not practical even. So we may need to change or drop them. So this is another limitation, technical limitation which causes requirement changes. And the next is stakeholder feedback. Well, once a user or client start testing or reviewing the system, they might suggest changes or improvements. The feedback often leads to update in the requirement. So well, it is quite self-explanatory. And the last is market and competitor trends. Well, what we are trying to what actually I'm trying to tell you, that it is nothing but keeping up with the market. Well, if let us assume that if competitors are offering new features or better solutions, so business wants to keep up with them, so they may change the requirement to add something new, or to they can, they can stay with the competition. So this is another reason that requirement get changed. Now we have seen why the requirements are getting changed frequently. Not frequently is not the correct word, but it happens that requirement get changed in middle of the project. So we will see how to access this requirement change. Now this is the most important thing. Access and requirement changes is a structured evaluation process to determine the impact, feasibility and necessity to modifying existing requirements in a project. It helps ensure the change align with the business objectives to do not disturb the project and are properly managed. Well, in simple word, when we talk about accessing requirement changes, it just means we are taking a proper structured look at the change before jumping into it. We check things like why is the change needed? Can we actually do it? Means it's we are talking about feasibility, then will it affect the budget, timeline or the other parts of the project? So once we have the answer of these questions, then we start working on it. The whole idea is to make sure that the change makes sense, fits the business goal and won't mess up anything that already working well. So it's like doing a quick reality check before saying yes to any new request. So it's quite clear cut that we are not blindly saying okay, you give us the requirement, I mean changing the requirement and we start working on that. It's not like that. We access it on the basis of its impact, on the basis of its feasibility, on the basis of its necessity. So now let's look at why is accessing requirement changes important. So first is prevent unnecessary modifications that may cause delays or increase costs. So it's like it stop us, when we think in this way, it stops us from making random or unnecessary changes that could slow down the project or make it more expensive. So not every suggestion need to be accepted. Means every suggestion come from the stakeholder for changing the requirement is not getting accepted here. Means when we access the any requirement change, then ensure alignment with business goal, compliance and technical feasibility. Well, this is quite self explanatory. It's like it keeps everything aligned, whether it is business goal, legal rules or technical limitation. Basically we are making sure the changes actually fits in all the above category properly. And last point is it helps avoid scope creep by controlling unplanned expansion, which means that when the project keeps growing with new ideas and requests that were never planned, this way we stay in control and don't let things spiral out. Well, we will see in few moment what is exactly scope creep. So stay tuned. And let's see now what are the steps in accessing requirement changes. Means as we have going through each and every module, and we have seen that there is a certain procedure we are following while working on anything, whether it is requirement gathering or whether it is requirement elicitation or whether it is prioritizing the requirements. So now it's come to accessing the requirement changes also. We will follow few steps which will make our life easy, means our business analyst life very easy. So the first step is identify the change request, then analyze its impact, then evaluate feasibility and alternatives, then approve or reject the change, and final is implement and validate the change. So we will see it one by one with example. So first is identify the change request. Well, stakeholders like business users, compliance team, then IT team or management submit a change request form. Okay, so in organization we call it as CRF. The request, then we what we do, the request detail what needs to change, why, and the expected benefits, everything is mentioned in this form. So in this way we can identify the change request. Well, let's take example of this. A bank introduces a new fraud detection policy requiring the loan management system to integrate real time identity verification. So real time identification of any fraud, any fraud customer, so it can be detected by the loan management. Now this change request, which was this requirement which was not earlier in the goal, or which was not earlier in the initial requirement gathering, now it comes and it is saying that we want this, and they provided the reason behind that. So we have first identified the request. Now let's analyze the impact. Well, impact is analyzed on various parameters. First is business impact. Well, does the change improve efficiency, customer experience, or compliance? So we talk about the what exactly business getting impacted by this particular requirement change, something like that. Then technical impact. Will it require modifying database, APIs, or workflow? So this is also another impact. If we change the requirement, means technical feasibility is there, something like that we need to change. The next is cost and time impact. How much will development cost is required? Will it will it delay the project delivery? Means timeline might be get hurt due to this particular change request, so we need to think about that also. Then operational impact. Will user need new training or process adjustment? So when end user using this particular loan management system, does we need to provide them special training if we put this particular requirement into the new software or the existing software? So examples are like integrating real-time identity verification requirements, which we have seen in the first step. We want identity verification. So what are the impacted there? API integration with third-party services. So this comes under the technical impact. Then new UI elements for customer to submit verification document. So this is another technical impact because we need to change the UI. Then increase processing time for each loan application. Now this is something time impact, something operational impact we can call it as, because it is something which happened after the delivery of the change request. Now next is evaluate feasibility and alternatives. Well, what exactly this means? That determine if the changes is technically and financially viable. Here we are taking, or rather I'll call it as checking, the technical feasibility and financial feasibility of the changes which are coming towards us. Then consider alternative solution that achieve the same result with a lower impact. Means we are getting the same result, but the impact on technical front or cost or time front is lesser than whatever the suggestion come for us. So let us take the example what we are doing. We are actually what we are doing here. We are talking about the changes in real time identity verification of the customer. Means whenever any loan officer go to the customer at that time, exact time, we will get real time identity verification of that particular customer, where we concluded that this is quite costly, time consuming, and technically little bit hard as compared to others. So the solution is that for that, while we evaluate on the basis of feasibility and alternative, is instead of full time real time verification, and alternative could be is that we do it by batch processing identity checks overnight, so reducing API cost. Instead of real time, we are taking overnight time for the batch processing. Means what exactly, this is quite technical term and generally BA don't work, but I'll let you explain what exactly meaning of this, what's going on here. If we consider there are thousands of customer applying for the loan, so total there is a batch of 1000. Now let us assume that now what we are doing in the night, we run the batch. This is actually called running the batch. It's quite technical term again. So we will at the time we will check their identity verification overnight. So what happens here? Time is something we are saving, and along with that we are reducing the cost as well, and it is quite beneficial. Means instead of getting real time, give at least time of 24 hours or overnight, so we will get the same result. So in this way also we can convince the stakeholder that instead of implementing directly real time identity verification, we can stick to this plan also, means this plan is also quite good. So this is something technical team, business analyst, then stakeholder come together, discuss, and they bring out some output. Now next is approve or reject the change. Now this is quite interesting. The change control board or decision maker review the analysis, and if the benefits outweigh the risk, the change is approved, otherwise it rejected or postponed. So with respect to our example, what happens, the bank approves real time verification since it reduces fraud risk despite added cost. So what bank is thinking that okay, it's fine, means we are good that our cost is increasing, but what is the output they are giving, that it reducing the fraud risk, means loan default risk what we are talking about is getting decrease. So we are good with real time verification, although it is adding technical cost, although it is adding other cost, we don't care about that. So our in our case our change request is approved. So in few cases it might get reject or postpone also. And once we get approval from the CCB, that is change control board, then we start implementing it and then validating it. Well, developers update the system based on the approved changes. What actually I'm trying to tell you, that developers start coding, working on it and implementing the changes. Then tester, that is QA team, is conducted to ensure stability and compliance, means they are seeing the flow is working as per the expectation. Then the UAT team, that is from the business user, validate the new feature meets the expectation. So in our system, in our real time identity verification will also the same. After implementation, tester ensures that identity verification work correctly, and it is required before the launching to the customer, means it's developers and QA teams work to deliver the exact solution what the stakeholder required. In this way, we can say that change request is accessed. Now we will see what is scope creep. Means scope creep is also part of change request, and it is very important to understand what exactly it is. Scope creep refers to the uncontrolled expansion of project requirements beyond the initial defined scope, often without proper approval. It can lead to delays, increased cost, resource overload, and project failure also. So, in short, scope creep is when projects start with a clear plan, but over time, more and more things keep getting added, like new features, extra changes, or last minute request without official planning or approving them. It's like just one more thing again and again until the project gets too big, too messy, and it's now hard to handle. And finally, this can lead to delays, extra cost, stressed out teams, and sometimes the whole project can even fail if it gets out of control. So this is very important thing where business analysts need to think, means look it very seriously. Now let's move on and check causes of scope creep. The causes of scope creep are unclear requirement, means vague or incomplete requirement lead to continuous changes, then frequent stakeholder request, additional means a request like additional feature or modification request in mid of the project, then lack of change control, no formal process is there to evaluate or approve requirement changes. They don't know, means in few cases they even don't know how to access the requirement changes, how the process goes on. So this is lack of change control. Then poor communication, misalignment between business users, developer and project manager. Well, this is something failure of business analyst. Here the communication should be good, and it is our duty to balance it. Then external factors like regulatory updates, market change, or computer advancement forces scope adjustment. So in this way, these are the things which causes the scope creep. Now let's see most important, how to prevent a scope creep. We have seen the disadvantage, we have seen the outcomes of scope creep and how it is hazardous. Now it's time to see how to prevent scope creep. Well, identify clear requirements. Before starting the actual work, make sure everything is well documented, approved, and agreed upon so that no confusion later. Next is implement change control. Well, this means that if someone, let us assume that if someone wants to add or change something, they need to submit a proper request. We don't just say yes on the spot. We ask them, we give us time, we will first evaluate it and then we will respond on it. Then next is set priorities, means we have seen the requirement priorities, it is similar to that. So that while we working on the prioritizing requirement, use the Moscow method, means there are various method, I just gave the giving the example of Moscow method to decide what really matters. This way we focus on the essential and don't waste time on nice to have stuff. So what exactly I'm trying to tell you, that when any requirement comes, any change requirement comes, we put it into the Moscow frame and we'll see whether it is really required or it is just having some nice to have stuff in the project. So if something nice to have in this stuff in the project, means we'll definitely say won't have, because it's not that much required. Then the next is maintain stakeholder alignment. This is also very important. Keep stakeholder in the loop. What does it mean? So regularly update everyone involved so they know what happening, what is possible and what's not. So no further surprises for the stakeholder also. This is purely the work of business analyst. And the last is use a scope statement. Well, this is like a clear rule book for the project. It tells everyone what's in the scope, what's not, so people don't try to sneak it extra work and the last time changes also. So this is very important. We must have a clear understanding of what exactly in the scope and what out of the scope. So in this way, if we consider, we can say that we can prevent the scope creep. So in this way, we can say that scope creep is a project risk that can be avoided with clear planning, proper change control and strong communication. Now let's move and summarize access requirement changes. Well, accessing requirement changes helps control modification, avoid scope creep and ensure alignment with business goals. Key factors to analyze are business, means on what basis we analyze the impact: business impact, technical impact, operational impact, then cost and compliance impact as well. And finally, proper evaluation prevents unnecessary disruption and keeps project on track. Now we will move to the last step of requirement lifecycle management, that is approving requirements. Well, approving requirement is a formal decision making process where stakeholders review and sign off on documented requirements, ensuring that they align with business goals, technical feasibility and compliance needs. In short, approving requirement is just a formal way of saying yes, this looks good to the final list of requirements. Stakeholder like business users, tech teams or compliance folks review everything that's been documented, and if it all makes sense, they give their sign off. This step makes sure that the requirements are not only clear but also match the business goals and are doable technically and follow any rules and regulation as well. It's like getting a green signal before moving ahead with development. Now let's check, why is requirement approval important? Well, first is ensure all stakeholders agree on what will be built. Well, it is again self-explanatory. It makes sure all the stakeholder agree on not on exactly what's going on to build and not surprises later. And next is reduces scope creep by locking approved requirement. We have already seen what is scope creep and what exactly I here trying to tell you, that once requirements are approved, they are official. This helps avoid random changes later and keeps scope creep in check. And next is prevents misalignment between business and IT team. Well, what exactly I am trying to tell you here, Here such statement can be avoided. We thought you meant like this, something like that, and this create confusion between business folks and tech team, so everyone knows what is expected, so no misalignment. Then helps meet regulatory and compliance standard. Well, if there are any legal or compliance standard, this step ensures we are not missing anything important before moving forward. And finally, now let's check key activities approve the requirement. It's like steps or key activities, something like that, we need to identify, we need to check, we need to take care of before we approve any requirement. So first is define approval criteria, then conduct requirement reviews, then resolve conflict before approval, then obtain formal sign off, and then once it is approved, then version control baseline approve requirements. So now let's check each key activities in detail. So first is define approval criteria. Well, before requirements can be approved, clear criteria must be established. Well, let's align it with a loan management system. In the loan management system, requirements will be approved if they meet this condition means criteria. So it should be aligned with the business objective, and the objective is that it should increase the loan application efficiency, means whether requirement is coming fresh or whether it is change request. If it is increasing the loan application efficiency, then only it can be considered. Then are technically feasible, means whatever the requirements are coming, is it technically feasible? So this is something which is validated by the IT team. Then meet compliance regulation. So there are regulations while working on any project, especially for banking or insurance. So this is something verified by the legal and compliance team and should have stakeholder consensus on that. So with such criteria, requirement process get approved. Then next is conduct requirement reviews. A structured review process is required to evaluate each requirement before approval. A review is very important while approving any requirement. Let us align with again with our loan management system. A business analyst organizes a review meeting with the stakeholder like product manager, IT team, compliance officer, and branch manager. And what they discuss during this review meeting, that IT team confirm whether it is feasible, technically feasible or not. Then compliance ensure it meets regulatory laws or not. Then business confirm it aligns with the customer needs. So the loan approval workflow requirement is discussed in this particular meeting. And the next is resolve conflicts before approval. Well, this is quite interesting. Well, stakeholders may have differing opinion on requirement which leading to approval delays. Let's align with our example. Well, conflict is in the loan management system is that compliance team wants a manual loan approval for high risk customer. They don't want automation here. They want manual loan approval process if the customer is identified in the high risk category, and business wants automation to speed up the processing. So this is the conflict is there. Compliance team not ready to accept the automation, and business team is saying that no, we want to speed up the process, so automation should be there. So resolution is hybrid approach. So what exactly we are doing here? Loan below $50,000 fully automated, loans above $50,000 manual review required. So process get delayed. See what happened generally, the loan for $50,000, there are too much customer for that particular category. So fully automation will definitely help the speed up the process. And someone with $50,000 and above, these are very special category people, and manual review is required because we are giving them a huge amount. So little bit time spending is worth here. And so in this way we can say that we have resolved the issue. And the next is obtain formal sign off. Once stakeholders agree, formal approval is needed before implementation. Well, the loan disbursement process requirement is finalized, means we have created the requirement, whatever things are requirement for loan disbursement process. So before we are developing anything, we have noted down each and every requirement. Now who will finalize this? Then sign off should be from product manager, then IT infrastructure manager, and compliance officer. And once we get the These all approval we are recorded into in various tools, Jira, Confluence, or via emails, or in the Excel. We are maintaining the record. So where in the future there should be no confusion. And last key activity involved in approve the requirement is version control and baseline approve requirement. Once a requirement is approved, it must be baseline to prevent unauthorized changes. Now let us check with loan management system. Well, there is a requirement that loan interest calculation formula. So this is the requirement, and this requirement is finalized by the stakeholder. Now what are the next step? Now what we will do, it is stored in a version, that in a version 1 we have created this the requirement for loan interest calculation formula, and it is controlled by Confluence and Jira. Means it is very important that this should be maintained, because in future any change requirement come, then we will ask them that raise your formal change request. We will not something that you will tell us that change the loan interest calculation formula and we are going to change. We will see it whether it is fit the criteria, fit the feasibility, something like that, and on the basis of that this particular loan calculation formula get changed, and again the version is updated, and in this way it goes on and goes on. So we can say that this is very important thing, control the version. Well, let us see the example so that you will get exact idea what exactly I am trying to tell you. See, this is approval log format. Here requirement ID we have written down. Let us say LMS requirement 001. Requirement description, loan application form, collect customer detail and document. So the status is here approved. Approver Jessica, then Donna, then approval date is there, and version is also written. Then there is another requirement, loan approve workflow automate decision making for loan. It is also approved. Approver are Harvey Lewis. They have their designation in the office, they have their roles, that's why they approved this. Then the date is also written, and version is controlled. Then there is another requirement which is pending by whom is also written, and it is still draft, because version means something which is finalized. So in this way we maintain approval log. So this is very important, because when any change request comes, so we need to update this particular sheet as well. So in this way we can say that approval log format is equally important in requirement approval. Now let's sum up this topic. Accessing requirement changes helps us to check if a change is actually needed, and approving requirements make sure the right people say yes before we move ahead. Together they help to keep project on track and align with what the business really need. So now I hope that you have understand what exactly requirement lifecycle management is. It's all about making sure the project stays on track with its requirements. We start by gathering all the details, then we move through the steps of accessing, approving, prioritizing, and managing any changes that pop up. The goal is to ensure the requirement always match what the business needs, are technically possible, and comply with any regulations. Regular check-ins with stakeholders and solid change control process help keep everything under control and prevent scope creep from messing things up. In short, RLCM is about keeping things clear, prioritize, and align so the project can move forward smoothly from start to finish. Well, in the upcoming tutorial, we will deep dive into requirement analysis design definition, that is RADD, where we will focus on the breaking down requirements, analyzing them in detail, and designing the solution that meets business needs. So, before we wrap up, just one final thought to leave you with. Thank you so much for hanging out till the end. If you found even a little value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts or questions in the comments. I genuinely love hearing from you. And hit subscribe to set for the next videos so we can keep diving into the amazing world of business analysis together. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.